This is your host, Rambunctious.
And your co-host, Tayamu Denku. Pick apart the passion. Pick apart the passion. Pick the passion. Pick apart the passion. Welcome to Pick Apart the Passion podcast. Tonight, I'm definitely going to tell this story about how I came across this particular artist, but we have a painter, designer, art creator. There's so many different things that I feel like I could put into what you do. We got Luke Chueh on the show tonight. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Denku. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm pretty good, man. Just it's a scorching 98 degrees in Milwaukee. Have you ever been to Milwaukee before?
I have not been to Milwaukee, but I definitely one of my cities that I want to go to one of these days. I need to travel more of the United States. I kind of find myself floating between California and New York, and once in a while Florida. But I remember the first time I stepped out of that triangle of states and cities and went to North Carolina, and was just blown away by how different it was. Because you go to New York, you go to Los Angeles, it's basically kind of, there's a similar kind of
big city
vibe.
life. Big city.
Yeah.
Life.
And I kind of feel there's so much more out in this country that I would love to, experience and see, and especially eat, because that's the thing that that's the reason to travel, right? The reason to travel is to go and eat the world. And to take a little taste of all the little bits and pieces that regional areas have to offer.
Oh yeah, so. I'm a definite foodie, and I've actually been I'm a hip hop artist. I've actually booked my own tours all over the US. I've actually never been to the West Coast. I've actually never been to California, but I've been everywhere east and everywhere Midwest, and I think the furthest west I went was Colorado is the furthest I've been. But yeah, traveling is one of my favorite things to do. And I love to definitely hit, famous restaurants, or even, what a certain place is known for.
When you come to Los Angeles, you gotta let me know. I'll hook you up, because right, that's
right. Yeah. I look forward to it, man.
Absolutely. But well, thank you very much for the very flattering introduction. My name is Luke Chueh. I am based out of Los Angeles. I am a painter, toy designer, graphic design. My background is actually in graphic design. I chose graphic design because I'm 48 years old. I'm a bit of an old dog now, but growing up in the 70s, 80s, and going to school in the 90s, when you hear the word artist, it's often associated with the word starving. And you don't really, there's nothing glamorous or, fun about starving. So I never really took the initiative or the leap to, go to a stupidly expensive art school and drive my parents into debt. And I went to a school called Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, where I studied graphic design. And I felt like graphic design was a balance between art and practicality, where I could be able to express myself visually while getting a regular paycheck. And it was probably one of the better moves that I made, because through that education, I learned about composition. I learned about color. at the time, school was a lot more affordable. So I took a whole bunch of other extracurricular classes to learn more about the world that I live in and learn about other disciplines like photography and life drawing and painting and illustration. And it was while I was like, maybe like in the last year I was there, where my professors kind of pulled me aside and said, "Hey, Luke, you are a mediocre graphic designer, but you are a much better illustrator, and you should kind of like look into illustration as a career path, and if possible, go on to grad school," which I didn't do. But I ended up moving to Los Angeles in 2003, and I kind of things I the way I kind of see it is I got really lucky. Like, the timing was impeccable. I came here. I like the one friend that I had from college, who I still kept in contact with, introduced me to some other graphic designers, and they introduced me to this underground art show that was happening in downtown at the time, called Cannibal Flower.
Mm.
And what it was these like one night parties in warehouses where they would like bring in upwards to like 90 to 100 like painters and artists, and they would have DJs and they would have live bands, they'd have performance artists, and people would pay $7 to go and check out all the art and see the performances, and and be able to buy art for on the cheap from there. And it
Sounds
was
like an awesome experience, actually.
it 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 was a great way for someone who is interested in art to kind of try things out. It was kind of like an art school, a school of hard knocks for art, where you will create a painting, you'll put it up on the wall, and you've got like 90 other artists out there who are, doing their thing. And you could see how your work feels in relationship to these 90 other artists. And, you'll see like stuff selling, and you'll see stuff that's sitting. And when you're playing the visual art game or the gallery game, I kind of feel one of the things you should be doing is, when you're looking at group shows, you take a second to study what's selling, and hopefully through your skills of observation, you can be able to look at it and go, okay, the reason why these are selling is because of A, B, and or C. And how can I make A, B, and or C fit into what I'm doing,
Mm.
and and make it sincere?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's kind of a hustle to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And
When did real quick, well, when did you stop going to Cannibal Flower, and when did that whole uh type of underground art show, like, did it stop? Does it still go on?
no,
Or
it ended up dying, or not dying. It ended up transforming into an actual space called Art Bar in West Los Angeles. The event kept going. Like, so I did it for about maybe 2 years before, and the entire time I had it in my mind, like, I am going to document every single painting I create, whether it's good or bad. And I am going to, have these high res images, and maybe I could be able to have a book one day, and we could look at like all the old stuff and print it in this nice coffee table book, and we can laugh about like how naive I was. And and I um like but at the same time, I took like lower res images and put them on a website, my lukechew.com website, and I was able to just kind of catalog all the good and all the bad that I had created. And through that website, and then through social media, like at the time it was MySpace,
Yeah.
I was able to get the attention of some new galleries that were popping up in the area. Um, the first gallery that showed me was a gallery called Gallery 1988. They're still around and they're still showing like new, young, fresh art, visual artists um, who have a kind of a pop art like like thing to their work. And then from there, I moved on to Corey Helford Gallery, no, to Copro Gallery, Copro Nason Gallery, which is kind of a, I guess you could say, lowbrow illustrative arts kind of gallery. And then I got kind of picked up by a gallery called Corey Helford Gallery, which is the gallery that I'm showing at now. And yeah, it's there is a, in the art thing, there is a hierarchy, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And I've just been kind of slowly trying to make my way up that ladder of art galleries and price points. Like my first paintings, when I was showing at at these warehouse parties, I was selling them for like, like $200, $300 a painting. And I think that's a for a person nobody knows, like that's a very reasonable price to, like, for someone to come up to your work and open your wallet and pull three bills out. Like, that's a big chunk of change for someone who doesn't have a name or a reputation. And
Yeah.
then when I moved up to an actual kind of gallery system, the prices, like, increased like to like 500, 600, $700. And it's just been an incremental like price increase over the years, kind of measured on demand and um, reputation. So
Yeah. Do you ever feel? Do you feel like just talking about stuff like that? Like some of the real uh famous artists of like our time,
like
when
cause
when when
like
when they were alive, I'm talking about people that are like gone now. But when they
okay.
were alive, they probably never reached the tier that they wanted to, and then when they're gone, now their paintings sell for like hundreds of thousands of dollars, or their museum pieces. Do you feel like in your
I think
lifetime you're
that
get to that?
I think that idea kind of changed, especially in the 20th century. Like you take an artist like Salvador Dali, who, in case you're not familiar, he's
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
most famous for like the melting clocks and stuff like that. He saw that fame and that glory when he was alive. He owned like a freaking castle in Spain. He was in stupid ass Pepto Bismol ads, um, you know, the pink stuff, where he was like painting on his, like, I guess it was his wife, in the ad, explaining how Pepto worked. Picasso saw that kind of fame and glory, while he was alive. And I think we're seeing more and more of that happening now. Like freaking like Cause, who's probably one of the most hype beast artists of our time right now. Like he's showing around the world, selling multi-million dollar paintings. He's, living the freaking artist dream. Um, the Takeshi Murakami from Japan, he, like, same. He, I think that like the idea of, I mean, like there's still a lot of artists who are only discovered like after they die, but that, and like, I think the most famous artists who, people like associate that um that archetype because of Van Gogh or Van Gogh, however you want to pronounce his name, because he throughout his life, he never he I think he sold like a couple paintings like to his friends, and was this a mentally disturbed artist, and then eventually dies. And if it wasn't for his brother and his sister-in-law, his work would never have been discovered. And so he became famous like after he died. But aside from him, like, I think, I don't know, the art game is such a weird game, and it's constantly transforming. Like, you
Mhm.
can't like base your career around like the artists before you, because they didn't have Twitter or Instagram or TikTok or the
Yep.
internet. And you can look at artists like Cause and Takeshi Murakami and um Mark Ryden or whoever, and admire their achievements, but it would be a fool to base your career on the steps they took to get to where they are. I truly believe that to succeed in the creative arts, you you need a confluence of a lot of different things. You need perseverance, hard work, discipline, um, a little bit of crazy, and a lot of luck. Because it becomes an issue of timing. Like, when did you come in? Who was around when you did what you did? And were you able to impress them? And I see all these articles on Facebook and social media saying, like, you know successful artists are, the most successful artists in this world got that way because of who they know, and by being around other famous people. Yeah, I mean, of course.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that makes sense, but at the same time, like, but that's kind of also dismissing the hard work, talent, and discipline required to be able to get there in the first place, to get the attention of like the rich and fabulous and famous. So I think that, I mean, we live in an interesting time. Like, communication and technology has never been quite like this,
Hmm.
where you're able to post something for essentially free, like, ignoring the fact that the devices that we carry cost almost $1,000 these days, and ignoring the fact that we have to pay upwards to $50+ a month just to keep that device connected.
Yep.
But it's like, through that small, a relatively small fee, we are able to publish our works on platforms that are essentially free, and we can be able to share it with the world. But the question then becomes, how do we get all the eyes to look at it and to acknowledge it and to appreciate it? And I still don't know how that works either. Like, it's like I've been trying to figure it out, because I like to think I've got a pretty decent following on social media, but compared to a lot of my friends and my colleagues, it's actually pretty small. And I kind of look at myself as a bit of a cult artist to a certain degree. Like, I have a kind of a cult following. Like, a lot of my work kind of revolves around this nihilistic attitude that I have toward the world, where I kind of perceive everything as being a a sad joke. and um and it's not exactly easy to digest. for most people. I think most people want optimism. They want something that they can be able to make them feel good. And my work makes you feel good in helping you realize that you're not alone in these like negative like observations that you're making about the world, which doesn't necessarily help, but it helps it helps. It doesn't necessarily help in the way that people want to be helped, but it does help in that, like, if you like if that negativity is what helps ground you in your world, then it's nice to be able to see, like, oh, I am not alone with um this sourpuss attitude, that the world is falling apart and I am Nero on a with my violin, playing as Rome burns. It's it
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
I mean,
so
yeah. I love the work, man. Like I definitely love a lot of the different deeper meanings behind the works and how they can reach people in a certain way. I guess my thing is so there's toys, and that's super dope. And so do you think that there's uh a age range that is allowed to um dive into your art? And do you think that that's maybe why you've become maybe this cult following instead of a broader range? Because it's like, because I have two daughters, right?
right.
And they're 10 and 11, right? This art to me, I mean, see, I'm very um outspoken in like the music I do. Like I don't have no filter or anything like that. Uh kind of like your art for the most part. Like there's really no filter in the ideas that you come up with. Do you
To a
think
certain
that
degree. Yeah.
yeah, so like do you feel like there's an age range like where younger kids need to wait to kind of discover what your art means? Or do you think that it's okay for
Hmm.
a younger person to come across it? You know what I'm saying?
One of the most interesting compliments that I've ever received was from if I remember correctly, the email that was sent to me was from a 12-year-old. And that 12-year-old sent me an email. This was a long time ago. This is maybe over a decade ago, but this young person emailed me saying, "Thank you so much for what you do. You helped me realize that I am not alone with these feelings." And it it kind of killed me a little bit, just because, like, this is a person who is really young, and he's already kind of experiencing the kind of hopelessness that I'm illustrating in my work. And but at the same time, I was touched because I want to believe that the work that I created helped give him some sense of perspective on the world around him. You know, the problem with pain is that it's such a personal thing.
Hmm.
Like, we can't, it's easy to sit back and judge a person and kind of go like, oh, that person, you know, is, sad because their friend like unfriended them. And like, that's nothing. You should get over it and go on with your life. But the thing is that, we are judging that feel what how they feel based on our experience, and what they're going through could be so much more dramatically harder on them.
Yeah.
And it's not our place to judge what how they feel, because how they feel is how they feel. And I'm hoping that my the work that I create, the fact that I'm so fixated on the harder feelings that we are experiencing, can like at least give people a chance to kind of feel like, okay, it's not there's nothing wrong with feeling this way. There's nothing wrong with feeling down or bad, because everybody feels down, you know, and eventually they get up and they keep moving, they keep continuing to try to move forward. And the way I think I like to illustrate the fact that I continue to try and move forward is by creating the next painting,
Mm-hmm.
and to continue down the path that I'm going through. I do believe that my work is getting less and less sad. P.S. So one of the things that my work was pretty fixated on, especially early on in my career, is um, addiction issues. I am a recovering addict, and I that was a thing that drug abuse was something that consumed a big chunk of my life, like over 14 years of very self-destructive behavior. And the bloodiest work, like I'm kind of known for this anthropomorphized bear, which is a metaphor for myself. And the that bear is usually has blood on its hands, and the blood I kind of perceived as another metaphor for my addiction issues. And I'm sober now. I've been sober for over 10 years, but the um I think one of the sometimes I would confront that issue, you know, head first with, like, syringes or other paraphernalia in the work. And then other times I would kind of try and illustrate the feeling of addiction through relationships, because when you are going through um, the um, addiction, you essentially have a relationship with this substance. This substance is your happiness, your sadness. It's what gets you up in the morning. It's what helps put you to sleep at night. And it's very akin to some of the most intense, say romantic relationships that human beings can have with another person, where, like, say that person embodies is your motivation to move on, to persevere, and to um you know do your hardest, because it's easy for people to want to just give up. But yeah, the and so no 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 now knowing that, like, imagine how I felt when I got this email. My sister was actually in rehab, and my sister, like, shared with me that email, and I was kind of like sitting here going, "Wow, okay." The paintings I'm creating are about self-destruction and um, depression, and um, this 12-year-old boy gets it. That's that I'm really feeling for that person, and I hope that they are able to figure their thing out, sooner than later, because it doesn't get easier as you
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
as you go on. So, but I still stand by the idea that the bear is and the rabbit and the chickens and the other anthropomorphized animals that I illustrate are essentially metaphors for myself, because what you know I I I truly stand by the idea that as artists, yourself and myself, the thing that we should draw the most inspiration from is from our experiences, because and sharing our experiences is what, especially when they're sincere, is what helps. It connects connects most easily with your audience. Your audience, will hear it, and maybe something in their lives kind of reflects with an experience that you are sharing
Hmm.
through your work. And that yeah, that I think that's amazing when human beings are able to connect through the metaphor, through the medium of art.
Oh yeah.
And it kind of makes your world, it not only makes the audience member feel less alone, it makes us feel less alone, you because they are. And I mean, that's also the joy, of course, of having colleagues, right? Like, you have other friends who are in the same profession that you're in. You can be able to like bounce experiences and information, with each other about what you're going through, and it kind of helps inform the direction that you want to go next. But the and because it is a small community, and as you continue to climb the ladder of your chosen profession, the group of the people that make it higher and higher, there's less and less of them.
Hmm.
And I truly believe that, like, it is in our best interest to like be amicable and friendly with our colleagues and our friends, if it's possible. Like, some people, obviously it's impossible to work with them, it's
Yep.
impossible to be friends with them. But you know hopefully, I don't know, I'm not sure what it's like in the music industry, but
I mean, they've pretty much a lot of what you described. Um, it crosses in like it's kind of there's a lot of the same ideas and things behind all of that,
right,
like the idea of how a lot of the people that jump up like this, it's because of people that they know.
right,
And then there's less hard work behind it, and there's a lot of hip hop artists that just jumped up like that just
right.
because of people they knew or how much money they had to put behind their drive behind themselves or whatever.
Sure, sure.
And
Well, money's a big thing. Well, well, I'm if you don't mind me asking questions,
yeah, yeah.
like, the music industry has changed so much between, like, say, the 1990s and now. Back in the 90s, it was label, 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 but now you have, you can self-publish through, like, from, like, say, Bandcamp and SoundCloud to, like, Spotify and YouTube and stuff like that. Has that kind of changed the dynamic of record labels and artists?
Yeah, so me, just on a personal thing, I started. I was in a group for a while, and then we kind of started our own brand called Shy Mill Music because just a little background. The other part of the people that were in the group were from Chicago area. I was from Milwaukee, so we just created our own brand thing, and then we ended up signing to an independent label.
Mhm.
Not signing, basically doing
Collaborating.
putting out albums through them. Like it wasn't actually like a contract to where we had to put out a certain amount of albums through them. It was like album by album based little contracts to
Hmm.
put the albums out. Like I've personally never been on a major label. I've
Mhm.
only done little independent things, and then from about 2012 all the way up to about right now, I've done everything completely independent.
Mm.
Like everything's my own branding, my own push, my own drive. And then recently I had met I recently did a song with I'm not sure if you're familiar with hip hop that well. Are
Mm,
you into hip hop at all?
a little bit, but not particularly. I'm more of like an electronic kind of vaporwave, study
Okay.
beats kind of guy.
Yeah, but you've been but I mean you're older than me, so you've actually been around um music like a lot. Like you were here
Yeah,
uh from pretty much the golden era of hip hop.
sure,
Basically.
sure.
I mean you were
Yeah.
it was like 80s. It was like mid 80s to like mid 90s is like golden era time frame. Like it's
Okay.
around.
Okay.
And I recently met up with I did a song with Fredro Starr from Onyx. I don't know if
Okay. Right. I've
um
heard of Onyx. All right. Awesome.
they actually have a label called 100 Mad right here.
Hmm.
Always gotta rep them since I've been getting down with them, you know what I'm saying?
That's awesome.
But yeah, so recently I basically uh mended my ways with them just to see where it goes. Cause
Yeah.
I've been doing independent things for, probably the last 10 years. And
Hmm.
it's definitely been, but see now this thing is it's different for me now because now it's almost going to um letting the label push my stuff out there.
Sure.
So I'm kind of I'm working with them, but I'm kind of at the same time um letting them be the machine behind what's going on. And before that, I was doing everything independently. So it's definitely a whole different experience. I don't even know um I don't know if I would have liked the way that the major label push was back in the day because
Mm.
I feel like you kind of just
There's a compromise.
yeah,
You have to compromise in order to be able to um like get the checks
yep.
that they're willing to cut. And it's unfortunate because like a lot, these huge like music, like all creative formats, there are gatekeepers
Mhm.
that are like holding that will hold you back from despite how talented you are, despite what an amazing singer, songwriter, rapper, painter, designer, director, whatever. Like there are always gatekeepers.
Mhm.
And like I will often like joke like okay, so there was an event in 2019 right before the coronavirus, and I was there, and one of the editors for Hypebeast was there, and we were like just like standing around in a circle, talking, and I look at him, and from the circle I say, so do I suck your dick here or do we go around the corner? And because like like that, and of course I got laughs from that because I was trying to be funny. But it's like these there are total gatekeepers, and it's just we like as independent artists, and like I've never had a manager, I've never had um a rep, and I've done everything I've done, and the reason why I've never taken on a manager or a rep is because I don't want to give up 20% of my income to someone who can is only able to offer me the same things that I could be able to get on my own.
Mhm.
Like,
I feel
if
that.
you can be able to like hook me up with like shows in Europe or Asia, or like job, like commissions or walls to do murals on or something like that, then okay, let's talk. But like I've gotten everything I've gotten so far on my own by hustling and by posting and sharing and going to events and shaking hands with people and just like basic business stuff. Like it's I mean like it's and it's not easy.
Oh no, it's definitely a grind. Definitely
Yeah,
a
it's,
grind.
it's definitely a grind, and it was a little bit harder, especially with the the pandemic, like getting out there, like because there was nowhere to go. But the
Yeah, and it
but
and it and it was real. It was real bad in California. Like you guys just recently
Mhm.
got back to more of a normal life out
Yeah,
there.
just like fortunately, like the like a lot of people, I think it's a combination of people being sick and having antibodies and also people getting vaccinated that like helped flatline the things in California, because a ton of people got sick, a ton of people died, and but a ton of people also recovered, and so they have the antibodies now, and so it's just less people able to get sick, combined with the people who also got vaccinated. And it's you can, I feel pretty confident walking around outside without a mask. Of course, I go to, when I go to supermarkets and places that ask you to wear a mask, I put a mask on. But like it's yeah, California is feeling pretty stable right now.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
and so like last night, this past weekend, I the gallery that I work with had an actual like nighttime opening, and we like it wasn't huge. It should have been huge, but like I think there's still a lot of people out there who are feeling pretty apprehensive about
Mm.
the situation, and that's totally fine. I get it. But like I was out, like I haven't been out like like at night for uh, an event like this forever, and it felt weird. And it felt awkward. Like my social muscle, like when it comes to socializing, I'm like best at small groups, like two, three, four people. Like I can like easily talk, we share information, I could easily
Yeah,
listen.
yeah, yeah.
But then when you go to a space and there's hundreds of people around, you're just kind of like, I want to go home. But I mean, I think that's like one of the things that comes along with being a painter or a visual artist, is that you like the work is very isolating. um i I now I share a studio with four other artists, and like I rarely see them because we all like have our own kind of like ways of doing. I'm a night owl. I will
Hmm.
like go into the studio at like 8 p.m. and I'll be there till 2 or 3 in the morning just working, and then I'll come back home. But and I'm walking through this studio like with like nobody else is there, and a lot of these people are kind, like I've two of my studio mates, they kind of do the like 9 to 6 kind of grind, 9 in the morning till 6 p.m., and that's great. Like good for you. Like I I don't have like children or like a spouse, so I I have the luxury of sleeping until 1 or 2 in the afternoon. It's great, you know. Yeah, you should be jealous.
Definitely jealous. I mean, I get up for my regular, because I mean, music. I have a regular job, and then I do music pretty heavy.
Mhm.
Aside from that, because the job that I have allows me to be able to tour and do things like that, just based on
Oh,
the
that's great.
scheduling of it. So it allows me to do, like, let's say I want to do a week tour,
Mhm.
I could just do trade days, and then I could basically leave on a Wednesday and tour up till the following Wednesday, and
Mhm.
then not miss any of my hours for my regular. So I would be able to do something like that. Small tour stuff. I mean, obviously I couldn't do like a West Coast tour, I'd have to take vacation time to do that.
Sure,
But
sure.
I've built up enough to where it works. And if you know, if I get presented the opportunity to where, you know, what I'm music puts enough in my pocket to where I can do it full time,
Mhm.
then of course I would jump at that. But until that
But it's so
happens,
much harder now because you don't like you're not making money off of record sales,
no,
and
it's
streaming pays nothing
nothing.
basically.
Yep, it's most of your money comes off either individual merch or touring, and touring's where it's at. And yes, I personally have not done a live show since March 11th, 2020. Like literally, I had a whole
Right
tour.
before the freaking CDC
Yep,
announced that we
I
had a global
and
pandemic.
the
Yeah.
very next week I had a whole mini tour run set up, and then the following, like in like another month and a half out, I had a 21 date tour that I had booked.
Oh man.
And yeah, I mean I you know I had to get rid of all that.
Oh my God. That is just that's painful to hear.
Oh yeah.
That is painful to hear. Like because I'm sympathizing to it because it's like I think I had something similar happen like um last year, which was like in last year June, I was supposed to have a big show in the Philippines, and the last time like I was out there, like that show like took care of like 8 months of income right there,
Mhm.
and it canceled because of the freaking pandemic.
Yeah.
And I was scrambling, trying to figure out like how am I going to freaking make enough money to pay my rent, you know, um, like because I knew I was good until June, like I had like, and then I had maybe another 2 months worth of rainy day money that I could get in. I set aside, you know, because that's the
Hmm.
one of the problems with being a full time artist is you don't know when the fucking floor is going to drop out from underneath you. You just don't know. You
Hmm.
don't have the stability of having an actual like regular paycheck coming from coming in. So you got to like prepare for the best and the worst. And yeah, I was contacting people like friends with small galleries and like doing as many group shows as I possibly could. And then I got onto this app called Pop Shop. It's a streaming commerce site where you are on camera just selling merch, you know, and live, kind of like a internet QVC. And that's basically kind of how a friend of mine let me have a show of affordable quick drawings that I did in August, which you know pushed me through to um like my till December, and then I had like a couple of like online conventions where I had products that I had set aside for those things to like push me through into my solo show. And I had a solo show at Corey Helford Gallery in February, late February, March, and fortunately, like that show did well enough for me to be relatively comfortable. But yeah, no, the like just to I imagine that like touring, performing live, like that is, I mean, like that's kind of a big chunk of your personal income. Like
Oh yeah.
you're giving up work days to be able to do this, pursue your passion, and to also get paid to like perform in front of of an audience. And you know, to watch all of that just go up in dust is, oh, it hurts. It hurts to hear that. So
Oh yeah. Especially, I mean, I hate booking my own tours, but I've become good at it.
mhm,
But it still sucks because I think that tour took me, I think it was like 3 months to
mhm.
book all the dates. You know what I'm saying? And then like when it finally was gone, and considering how successful the previous tour was, I was really looking forward to it. You know, I just got merch pressed up,
Yep.
like some
Yep.
t-shirt designs pressed up. I just had new album that I had got ready to drop. I had some vinyl records that got pushed from an overseas label that I was getting for touring. So like it was like all that. And like now, I mean, yeah, I sell stuff online. Like it's, you know, it'll be good for a little bit and then it'll die off and then it come back here and there, random stuff. But like it's nothing like killing a live set, getting off the stage, going to your merch booth, and people wanting to hear what you just did on stage and you having that on hand, or you
Yeah.
having the shirt that you wore and you're like, oh, here, yes, you can also get this shirt. You can also have this. You can
Absolutely.
also have
I mean, absolutely. Like that, of course, that makes complete sense because, like, you know, like you're like, you know, you know, you do a great performance. People are like excited about like what they saw. They want like something. They're running off of that momentum.
Mm.
You're running off of that momentum, you know, and like, and then I think about when I'm thinking about like shirts, you know, record pressings, like that is overhead right there. That is that freaking that's that doesn't that's not manna from heaven. That's pulling at your freaking credit card and like going, okay, you know, let's make some shirts. Okay, that's going to be about like like $7-8 a shirt, and we have to do a number of these sizes, and these sizes.
Yep.
And like, and then I'm thinking about your tour, and I'm like, okay, now you have to have a van to, you know, and then you have to have like the gas money to fucking like go from this location to this location. You have to freaking like book hotels. You have to book, you know, like, oh my God, that's just.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a lot, man.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's right. But like, yeah, the one consolation that we have about all of this is that we were not alone
mhm.
in this. Everyone
Yep.
was for concern. Like I'm friends with a guitar company called the Ernie Ball Company. The past president Sterling Ball, who is the son of Ernie Ball, is a very good friend of mine, and like I used to work for his company and as a graphic designer, and he and I still talk, and he was telling me like, yeah, like guitarists, musicians like are really suffering right now because, you know, the opportunities to be able to perform are gone. And okay, what can you do? Like, okay, you could do a Zoom thing, but it's not the same.
Mm-mm.
You can.
I hate doing live uh online sets. I've done a couple. It's so awkward.
Yeah.
Like yeah, it's awkward to me. Like there's nothing like when you're a music performer, there's nothing like the live uh crowd that you're
Right.
performing for.
Right. I imagine that it's basically resetting. It feels like a hard reset on everything that you've built up on to a certain degree. I mean, like you still have your name and your reputation, but the thing is that people forget so easily
Mhm.
these days. They are, you know, and as artists, all of us, we can only produce so much in a year. We can only produce so much in a month. I, I'm not like, especially when it comes to Instagram, especially when it comes to like social media in general. I don't want to like constantly rehash old material. Like
Yeah.
like I want to just be able to like put up, you know, something I'm working on, something that I'm excited about, and leave it there. But I'm guessing that is one of the reasons why I'm like not like swimming in 100K fucking followers, is because I'm I'm only like pushing, what I'm working on now. If you want to see what my old stuff is, then fucking scroll down. It's all there. But I don't want to, maybe it's also like, I mean, I've been grinding at this for since 2003. So that's freaking almost 18 years. And it's been, like, it just doesn't stop. None of this just does not stop. And I'm a lucky one. I'm extremely fortunate because of the fact that I am making my living off of off of my paintings, and off of my toys, and off of like a handful of small commissions that I'll take each year. And and I live very humbly. I don't have anything particularly fabulous. I drive a 2006 Honda Civic. I drive I've had that car since it came out. I have an apartment outside of Los Angeles, just east of Los Angeles, because it's the last affordable part of Southern California that I can find. And I've got stupid ass cottage cheese ceilings. And but the thing is that like, I'm feel lucky that I have this, because of the fact that if I was throwing down $3,000 for an apartment in Los Angeles, I wouldn't have been able to afford it last year. And I'm lucky that I'm okay with a humble life, because I'm just interested in being able to save money for rainy days. Like, because like I said, like, that's the thing about the creative industries, is that like, you never know. You never, like, you cannot predict your future. It's great to aim for the top. It's great to like take steps, as we continue on. But the thing is you also have to realize that there's nothing guaranteed, and you enjoy the successes that you do have, and you push hard for the future. But you have to have in the back of your mind, like, something can happen. My health can go out. My something can happen in my family. I don't know. It's, and I need to be able to prepare myself for anything to happen. And by saving, and by playing, and playing it safe in certain aspects of your career, while taking risks in others. And and hopefully finding balance. Because like, I would love to be able to just live that quote unquote glamorous artist lifestyle, but
who wouldn't?
but like, that's like, it's like sports, like athletes, right? Like, I think about like what it means to be an athlete all the time, because like, you see these gigantic paychecks that athletes are offered. But the thing is that that's, in the grand scheme of things, and like, of your entire freaking life, that's not a lot of money. Like, you might be able to like live comfortably, you can live in a lap of luxury for about a decade. But if you aren't saving for it, you've got another 5 decades of life to live. And
you definitely gotta be smart about it.
You definitely have to be smart about it. And it's, I always kind of like, I like digging around the internet for the kind of sad but true stories. And you'll find like, there's a handful of athletes out there who just, they get consumed by other things, and they lose their fortunes. And it's a real bummer. it's a slap in it's a reality check. Like,
Mhm.
hey, you don't, you might be making millions now, but I kind of feel like that's the same thing with musicians too, especially when you're like signed to a
Yeah,
major record label.
actors, same thing. I
Actors,
mean, look what happened to Nicolas Cage. He owned tons of castles. He had to sell castles.
well, that's also because of freaking alimony
Yeah,
and
but I mean, but I mean, you don't. He didn't plan. He didn't plan for something like that to happen.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like, like, yeah. I mean, if imagine an athlete being like getting a human like being a superstar athlete, getting a humongous paycheck, and just living life like a normal person in a $300,000 house
right,
right outside the city. If you
yeah.
do that, you might have your family set for their whole life. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
And then you get a good fiduciary and like put that excess money into smart investments, and you can be able to live comfortably, but that's just not fun.
No, no, no. You want to get one of those top of the line cars.
Oh, of course, of course. You want to fucking
Travel the world.
hell
I
yeah.
know that's what I'd want to do. I'd want to travel the world if I was on that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And well, that is kind of like one of the great things about the the arts is if you can be able to carve a name and a voice for yourself, like the invitations come to you. And it's because people want to capitalize off of your success,
Hmm.
and so it's in their interest to like fly you out, and as long as you hold up your end of the deal and bring your work, and you make a cut, they make a cut, we all make a cut, they get the reputation of having you saying they know this guy from freaking halfway around the world. And it's like everyone freaking like benefits from it. You get, and like I'm lucky in the sense that like I do quite a bit of business nowadays in Asia. I've had the good fortune of flying into well, I've only been to London, but like once, but like to have those kind of experiences on other people's dimes is um you know it's nice. But like whenever I'm there, I'm working. I'm like, because I can't, I just wouldn't feel comfortable,
Hmm.
like you know knowing like someone threw down like 800 900 fucking dollars on a round trip ticket, for you, and not including the fucking like hotel that you're staying at,
Yeah,
to
you're not just gonna sit in a hot tub for like a whole day. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, and eat my way through the city, though I will still have to do that somehow. But but you're there because they have something you want, and you got to be ready to give it, but you have to give it, of course, on your terms.
Hmm.
You have to be true to what the message that you want to, like, in a sense, like, so like if someone said like, hey Luke, we'll like fly you out to this exotic location as long as you fucking paint Care Bears, I'll be like, yeah, no, that's I think you got the wrong fucking artist.
Do you
like I,
do you ever do live paint shows? Do you do those at all?
um I've done a I have done a Secret Walls once. Secret Walls is a live art event. They have DJs and audiences, and artists will usually be paired together to like do a painting live on these gigantic, like pieces of wood, and then the audience judges on who the winner is. Are you
Hmm.
familiar with Angry Wobots? Aaron Martin. He does these
Hmm.
he does a lot of murals. He's known for these like basically angry pandas. Um,
Hmm.
Really amazing artists. I recommend you guys look up Woes. That's WOES on Instagram. Um, Good friend, talented painter, and I think it's Woes, or it might be Angry Woes or something like that. But um, I was pitted against him in a event in Las Vegas, and it was pretty funny because there was this music festival called Life is Beautiful in Las Vegas, and they do art and they do music and they do murals and art installations and everything like that. And I was invited to do this, like I said, the Secret Walls show, and it was me and a good friend, a local artist, by the name of Juan Muniz. Juan Muniz is, I think his Instagram is Nino Bunny or something like that, and he's kind of known. He's also a very character driven artist, and then the opposing team was my friend Woes or Angry Wobots and another artist whom I can't really think of right now. And what I had just recently learned was Angry Wobots was known for, he has essentially up to then never lost a Secret Walls battle. But
Oh.
so, but um, like right before we went up on stage, I was talking to my friend Juan, my partner for the event, and I'm like, okay, we're in Las Vegas. We're both character driven artists. This is what we're going to do. We're going to fucking do uh, a painting inspired by um, Ralph Steadman, who did the artwork for the book Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. You might remember the movie, which
Yeah.
featured Johnny Depp. And there's a famous illustration and scene from the book where the protagonist is driving into Las Vegas in this, you know, convertible with like these bats. They're totally high on drugs, and there's fucking like these crazy like hallucinatory like bats flying around in the sky. And I'm like, we're gonna do that, and we did it. It was kind of crazy. It was totally wild. We were totally pandering to the fact that we were in Las Vegas. We were totally pandering to the fact that like this movie is kind of a hit and this book is infamous amongst certain like groups. And the drawing had like my character sitting in the driver's seat and his character like sitting next to mine. There's like bats in the sky, and it was crazy. And meanwhile, my buddy Woes, who had, like I said, up to then never lost to Secret Walls, and since then had never lost to Secret Walls, but he told me just recently, like I was his only loss. and and I mean, like that's I mean, and I guess to a certain degree we cheated a little bit because we had discussed it, and it's supposed to be like a free form kind of thing. But
Hmm.
anyways, yeah, that is
Hey.
my live art story. I also like at Sandy, like one of the events I usually find myself going to is the San Diego Comic-Con, which is a pretty massive event. And I work for my toys. I work with a company called Monkey King. I've been working with Monkey King since 2006, and we're still collaborating on projects together. And he he usually holds a kind of like a San Diego Comic-Con party at this specific pizza place and bar, and he will invite like 6 artists to live paint during the party. Just because like it's always that's one of the kind of the nice things about like live like art is that it's fun to watch. It's
Yep.
like whether it's performers or it's painters, or like to be able to look over the shoulders or look at a stage while you're just kind of hanging out. You don't have to talk. That's
Yeah, no, it's
like
yeah, no, it's super cool. Random. We actually, me and one of my artist friends, goes by his name's Terrell, but he goes by Carnage the Executioner.
yeah.
We actually did we did this one show. Actually, we did a series of shows together in the Wisconsin area because he's from Minneapolis. We did
Mhm.
a bunch of random shows, and during those shows, there's actually um, this collective called the Art Hop Collective, and they actually have live painters
Oh,
that
cool.
that live painted an entire painting while we performed the song, basically about our song.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was pretty.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was
I
pretty.
mean, like that. I'm assuming that this is an artist that you respect and whose work you enjoy too. So to see a visual interpretation of a song that you had done is it must have been awesome.
Oh yeah,
You know.
it was super
Uh,
cool to see that. Um, you had briefly touched about the Monkey King
yes.
collaboration. How did you meet? Curious.
Okay, so Monkey King used to have retail stores, um, and they like I discovered the art toy kind of indie toy thing happening on the internet. Are you familiar with Kid Robot?
Yes, I yeah.
Yeah. Kid Robot, like before they started doing Dunnies and other platform toys. When I say platform toys, I'm referring to a toy that is retains a very distinct shape and they have other artists kind of cover that toy with graphics. So it's the platform for which other artists kind of paint it up or design around it. Um, the most famous platform is a toy called the Dunny, and it's designed by world famous artist designer Tristan Eaton. But before that, Kid Robot used to bring in a lot of toys from Hong Kong because the art toy scene kind of started in Hong Kong with artists like Michael Lau, and there's a whole bunch of others whose names are currently evading me, but they would import a bunch of that stuff from there and sell it on their website. And their website was kind of like a an online catalog of all these amazing like and unique toy designs. And a lot at the time, like a lot of that the work that was coming out was very much inspired by like the b-boy rap hip hop culture coming from America. So it was American hip hop culture being visually reinterpreted by artists in Asia and Europe and sold back to Americans. And I found it all very fascinating. And I kind of went into my art career with the idea that like I would love to have like toys, made created based on these characters that I'm creating. And so um Monkey King was the at the time the only art toy store in Los Angeles. They were located in Chinatown by downtown Los Angeles, and I would like on Sunday after a Cannibal Flower show, my a couple of friends who also had art toy interests, and I would go to Monkey King and like hang out and see what they were selling. And
Hmm.
at the time, um, there's this there's a thing called blind boxes. It's still pretty common nowadays, but
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
blind box
Yep.
toys. And this was before like foil wrapping toys became kind of um, common, synonymous with blind boxes. And I would, I was going to this little like platform, like island in the middle of the store, and I would like pick up a box and I would turn it upside down and I would like flip, kind of like push the box a little bit and squeeze a little bit and see if I could peek inside to see what toy was hidden inside the box, because
Yeah.
I didn't want to like fucking spend like $7 on
And
a
get some
toy. And
whack. Yeah, you don't.
exactly. And I was doing this over and over and over again. And meanwhile, the owner of Monkey King was sitting behind the counter, looking at me. Apparently, this is what I found out later. Was just looking at me, going, "Who the fuck is this guy? And why is he ruining my products?" And I I eventually introduced, I didn't find anything I wanted, but I introduced myself. I said, "Hi, I'm Luke Chu. I'm actually a painter." And around that time, I had done a show in an art show in a clothing store called Black Market. And they had the clothing store had a wall like inside the shop where they would feature like, local artists. And this is before again before I did my got my invitations to do galleries. And he had seen that show.
Mm.
And so he kind of like let the me damaging his products slide this one time. And and we just started talking, and eventually he decided to transition from retail to production. And I was the first artist that he essentially booked to do the toy. And then we did a toy called Possessed. The toy is based on a painting I created of the same name, and it features my bear. And the painting was the first time I really got into the blood on my hands kind of narrative. And floating behind the bear is a devil, and the devil is holding an Atari 2600 joystick controller, which is plugged into the bear's head. I like to think that the bear has a "oh my god, what have I done" kind of expression on his face. Obviously, it's open to interpretation. But yeah, that was the first toy that I had made. And I gained a lot of traction from that toy because it was 2007. And like up to then, a lot of toys were just kind of like static objects with interesting graphics printed on it.
Mm-hmm.
And we really like, we created a kind of an asymmetrical kind of posture on the bear, where like it wasn't just legs straight down. Like he had this kind of slouch to him, and as he's looking at his own hands. And yeah, the response was huge. And I'm very proud of that project. It's something I still reflect upon, and like wondering like, how can I recapture that lightning? And
I actually had there somewhere on my Instagram. There actually is a video of me playing a song, and I actually owned a version of Headspace.
oh, nice,
And
nice.
there's a version of me playing a song,
Mhm.
moving Headspace around to the song.
So, well, Headspace, it was I kind of felt like, especially with the art toy scene, like there's not a lot. I think a lot of these people who are collecting these things don't quite realize how like how far the history of art and how all of this connects goes. And I kind of went into the project as this is going to be my way of paying homage to the things that have influenced me personally. These are the things that are inside my head. And the painting series is pretty expansive,
Mm-hmm.
and it has basically what it is the bear with the head removed like a mask or a helmet, revealing something else underneath it. And the toy line only got so far. I think the closest we got to like the idea of the homage was by like putting a Boba Fett head in there and putting a Stormtrooper head in there and putting a Darth Vader head in there.
Mm-hmm.
And because being a child of the 70s and 80s, Star Wars, of course, was huge in my life, and it still is. I love Star Wars, but the painting series, I had like Takeshi Murakami like Daub head in there. I had a Yoshitomo Nara head in there. I did like Salvador Dali. I did like all these artists, Andy Warhol, like all these like artists from both my time and before my time, um throughout in the series of paintings. And I don't know whether or not we can be able to necessarily like do that anymore, because I just never imagined like being able to like get the rights to use Salvador Dali's likeness in this series of toys, or having the artworks of artists whom I like love uh put in that series, resculpted and put into the toy series. But you know I don't know, I'm hoping that we can continue publishing, producing a couple more designs from that line. But I don't know, like it's like I said, like the past couple of years have been like things have kind of slowed down in a way that I don't think any of us could have predicted. So you
Yeah,
know uh,
literally right before this, because I no longer have the physical headspace character. Long story behind it.
mhm,
Not really anything to get into. It's basically a split relationship,
sure.
and I let that person take that with them,
Mhm.
whatever.
Happens.
So that's what happened. And then literally right before this interview, I was looking to see what kind of items were available. And I saw you had this I think the most recent was Ghost Bear. And I saw the description, and you were like, I don't really have a big description behind this. I was just lazy.
Okay, so okay, I what I meant by that was I was doing a 4 panel comic, which is like 4 squares, kind of like a Sunday or a daily, like a newspaper comic strip, like where they have 4 panels. And I wanted to create a character that where I didn't have to draw limbs. like I or I didn't have to draw like complicated features like legs and arms and hands. And so I created this dumb little ghost bear character. And I was publishing these kind of regularly on an Instagram site I created called Ghost Bear Land. And um unfortunately a lot of things happened, like my father passed away and etc. And so my motivation to continue the comic strip just kind of died after that. But I still think about it. And I recently, like I had created the 4 panels, and I copied them over and over onto pieces of paper, so I didn't have to redraw it over and over again. And I was like, I pulled them out and I set them on my dining table as a reminder that, like, hey, you know, just because you haven't published one of these comic strips in over 3 years doesn't mean you can't start publishing them again. And I'm like, okay, got it, Luke. talking to myself. And I will. I want to like the funny thing is that like the toy kind of took off with a life of its own. People, they're like $30 little soft vinyl toys that have interesting color schemes, and through like friends of mine who have been selling them on their live streams, it like the motivation and interest in this toy has kind of taken off. And So I'm kind of using like that momentum as, you know, the fire I need to kind of like get back into the into just doing these dumb little comic strips. And hopefully, I don't know, maybe this week, maybe like talking about it is all I need to get me like amped and doing it again. We'll see. We'll see. It's
I hope so. That would be dope.
well, thank you. Thank you. But how are things looking for you in the future?
Well, uh, with this
Do you
whole
have like things planned out for?
I'm technically dropping I'm dropping a new album at the end of this week actually
Oh, great.
on the Onyx label.
Oh,
And
that's
then
excellent.
I also have a couple albums that are planned to be released on a Canadian vinyl record label.
Mhm.
They're putting out some things, and then from the talks of it, from what it's looking like is going to happen, I should hopefully get to jump on the international Onyx tour next year. As
That's amazing.
yeah,
Congratulations.
so I'm hoping this all happens. You know what I'm
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, dude, dude. Where will the tour take you?
saying? Well, I wouldn't be able
If
to
it,
do.
in the best of circumstances,
Yeah,
obviously.
I wouldn't be able to do the full tour. Like I had already talked with the guy that puts it all together, and he knows my situation, but he
Mhm.
said, "Oh no, that's fine. You know, if you even if you could do 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you could, you know, we'll decide when to bring you on to the tour." But I mean, they're going all over Europe. Like I think you said they start in Italy, and then they work their way to like the Baltic area, and then basically all around Europe. So
Amazing, amazing.
I'm hoping. I mean, you know, I would love to even just jump on at the start. I mean, it'd be awesome to do. You know, he said they usually do like 7, 8 shows in Italy, which Italy doesn't even look big enough to have 7 or 8 big cities to do it. But I mean, I guess there's like 7 or 8 cities that they can stop
Oh
in
wow,
Italy. So
dude, that would be so fucking amazing. That would be
oh,
so fucking amazing.
yeah,
Like,
and that's the crazy thing about the whole pandemic thing happening is yes, I lost a lot of things, but without and I was just talking to the dude from 100 Mad about this not too long ago. Without the pandemic happening, um this might have never happened. This whole thing
mm,
that I got going on now because I was so focused on building my not that it's bad, but I was so focused on building my own thing independently by myself, not ever having um, you know, the machine behind me to get me to the next tier.
right.
That I would probably still be focusing on doing that. Not saying that, and I felt good. I felt good about where I was going and where I was at doing that. But
Mhm.
this, I feel, is just, you know, I jumped at the opportunity because it just feels like it's a group that makes sense with the type of hip hop I make. It makes
Mhm.
perfect sense, and you know, I'm just gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna see what happens if you know if it
For
doesn't
good or
work.
for bad, yeah.
Yeah,
Just like
if it doesn't work out, I'll just go back to doing
doing
everything
what you were
myself like
doing.
I was doing.
Well, I think more than anything, it's you're gaining experience, right? Like you're seeing this game from a very different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like and I'm like maybe I'm belittling it by calling it a game, but like I mean, it kind of feels like a fucking game, you know. And
Oh no, no. People always refer to hip hop as the rap game. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, like
Always.
it's just like I'm in the fucking art game. Like we are both in the art game, and it is like you there's a lot of fucking bullshit, and there's a lot of fucking like very cool, very sincere, and very grateful people
Mm-hmm.
too. And like the experience of being able to like being to like roll with people who are established in your field in a different way, like that's essentially that stuff that you're no matter what you're taking home with you,
Mm-hmm.
you know and and for good or for bad, you're going to like be able to you know work with this experience into your own career. So um yeah, like there are kind of similar things that happen in the painting world, where like collaborations, group shows, stuff like that, you have that get that association and credibility, and at the same time like you get the exposure,
Mm-hmm.
and it has a way of being able to add fuel to and a new perspective to what you're doing on your own. And hopefully no matter what, you're not going to let go of what you're working on for yourself. you
Yeah.
know, be-
Yeah.
you know so but
What do you got next coming up for yourself?
so well, if you're in the Los Angeles area, on September 4th, I will have a drawings show. So this all kind of started in um August of 2019. My buddy Eric Nakamura, he owns a art gallery called Giant Robot. It was an offshoot of a magazine that was published all the way up till like 2011 called Giant Robot. And I'm doing so in 2019 I did a show called Let's Eat, and it was a group show where I invited a whole bunch of friends together, and we just it was co-curated by my friend Sarah Joe, who is in the art business as well in her own way. And um she had I remember visiting her in her husband's house, and in her kitchen was just covered in food themed art, food themed paintings. And I was like, that this makes so much sense. Like,
Hmm.
why where else are you going to put food themed paintings except in your fucking kitchen and or your dining room? And so I was like, let's do a food themed group show together. And so we did that in August of 2019. The pandemic happened in and I was scrambling, like I said earlier, like after like when all the galleries around the world were shutting down. And so I contacted him and he contacted me, and like because I had this curator like thing going in August of 2019, he offered me the space to do something in August of 2020. And I'm like, well, I have a solo show in you know the following year, so let me just like start mapping out that show and in draw and graphite on paper, and we can sell those drawings. And then so we did that. And then this year he was like, so you want to do something again for uh late August of 2021? And I was like, sure. And so now we have I'm doing another a show that I'm aptly titling More Drawings.
Hmm.
And it's just graphite on paper. They're an affordable um artworks, and yeah, it should be pretty fun. And then still working on toy stuff. Not sure when a lot of that stuff will be available, but I had recently done a toy with a company in Singapore called Flab Slab. That's a anagram for float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
Oh.
And I it's a toy called Hello Lukey. My bear design is loosely based on or loosely inspired by Hello Kitty, And the reason being is because when I was studying, like, before, like researching characters to develop my own, I fixated on Hello Kitty because at the time Hello Kitty was 30 years old and her design had been consistent throughout its lifetime, throughout its existence. You look at a Mickey Mouse, you look at like cereal box characters like Snap, Crackle, and Pop, Bugs Bunny, whoever, like that character design has changed and evolved and changed and evolved, over time, kind of dictated by the trends of that time. And I wanted to create a character that I felt would be timeless, so that, say 50 years down the line, people can look at my character and it will still have a certain freshness, that they can identify with. And so that's why I have a lot of love and respect for the Hello Kitty design. But I did a toy called Hello Lukey, and it's basically the famous Hello Kitty sitting pose with the head cocked toward the audience, and but it's my bear, and there's blood on the hands, and it's got this forlorn, sad expression on it, and that the public response has been very positive, and but it takes a while to produce these things because they're all manufactured in Japan with hand poured vinyl, and it, like, handmade stuff is, takes time. So hopefully, I already put an order in for fall, so hopefully I will have those on hand by November, and I'll be selling them on my online store as well.
Well, I'll be
So,
looking for that because I just actually, literally, like I was saying before this interview, I did actually get the clear Ghost Bear
oh, great.
and
Yay.
two minis just to
Yes.
make it so it doesn't just sit by itself. You know what I'm saying?
Or what you could do is you could put the minis
Yeah,
inside the clear,
yeah,
which is a common trick that, like, the way I like to display the ghost bears. It's like I'm a ghost eating ghosts. Very meta.
yeah, yeah. Isn't there also I also before we started I was looking and DKE Toys is making Realize. Is that?
Oh yeah. Okay. So DKE is kind of known for doing these bootleg Star Wars figures. They work pretty closely with an artist out of New York called Sucklord, and he is famous for, kind of being the grandfather of, like, recasting Star Wars figures and in resin, and coming up with really clever, like, you know backing boards for these figures. And this an entire cottage industry has come up from that, and DKE invited me to do a figure, and I had no interest in doing a bootleg Star Wars figure, but I worked with, but because my toy designs have all been digitalized and we put armatures in them so we could be able to pose them however we wanted, I worked with the sculptor in creating a series of figures. And I don't really have a name for the series, but, like, it's the idea is the figure is imprisoned in this clear blister that is glued to the card. And so the first one is called Realize, where he has his hands against the the clear plastic blister, and he's looking around like where am I? and so that one's Realize. I the way I describe it is, um this I tried to illustrate the moment when you realize that you're totally fucked. and so there's
Yeah.
that. And there's two follow-up figures. There is Resist, where I have the figure, like, using his legs and feet to try and bust out of the blister. and then resign, where he has his hands against his to his sides, and his forehead is pressing against the blister,
Hmm.
like, like going, like kind of giving up and going, this is my fate. I'm stuck in here.
Yeah.
And I kind of look at it as like a study of being imprisoned and stuff like that. So
Yeah. I mean,
um
that sounds super cool, man.
uh,
Before, I mean, we've been talking for a minute. Before we actually do part ways, you
yes,
had briefly mentioned um, Eric Nakamura,
yes,
and you and him uh, have a podcast together called Robot and the Bear.
yes.
So
So
what?
Eric Nuckham, yeah.
Yeah. So what stemmed that? Where'd that come from? And how long have you been doing that?
We've been doing it now for maybe a year and a little more than almost 2 years, I'd say. And it kind of started from I used to live near his gallery, and I would go and just I would go and hang out. Like he and I were buddies, and we would just sit there, and for hours he and I would just like shit talk and bullshit about art and about people and friends and food and books and other things. And I think we both kind of realized like we should be documenting this. This is funny as shit, and we should like just do a podcast. And the podcast is called Robot the Bear. Eric owns Giant Robot, so he's the robot, and I'm obviously the bear. I like to think of myself as the ass of the show. I am kind of like the comedic foil of it all, because I have said some of the most ridiculous shit on that podcast, and it's all been recorded for posterity. And it's a yeah, we try and record like, I don't know, lately since the pandemic, about every other week. It used to be weekly. And we would have other like artists on the podcast, where we would talk about like the art game, what and like how we felt about like news about other artists. And it was very visual art centric. And
Yeah.
we've been doing it over Zoom. um it's okay. Like Zoom is, I think doing in-person interviews and conversations is a lot easier. You're able to really like vibe off the energy in the room.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like Zoom is cool. I mean, like it has definitely opened it up so that we can be able to talk to a variety of different people from around the country. But it just doesn't, like, we start when we started the podcast, it was like at his house, he and I facing each other, with microphones and and a camera, like documenting it all and streaming
Yeah.
it off of YouTube. But yeah, so like we did an episode last week, and it had some technical difficulties, specifically with sound. I'm hoping that the sound works out for this one.
Oh,
And
it sounds good. I mean, I'm saying I think I mean this is actually our 41st episode. We really actually started going full speed ahead once I think actually at the start of this year.
mhm,
Like once I was kind of like, all right, shows aren't coming back yet. I need to do something.
mm,
I know a ton of people. I know how to get in contact with a ton of people. There's a
mhm,
lot of people I'd love to talk to. And yeah, that's how this whole thing happened. I mean, basically, I um think I came across your art in 2010.
mm,
Um, which I mean, kind of great. You were like, yeah, you asked me before we even started, how did you come across it? It was
yeah,
randomly 2010. So I'm looking up random art to try to find things to use for uh for album cover
mm,
inspiration things, right?
Right.
And I'm looking up like dark art or dark or something like emotion, different things, and randomly came across your art and someone that actually also it's weird that you guys both came up this way, and that's how I found both of you. But it was you and oh Joe Ledbetter.
Joe Ledbetter, right? Yeah.
Yes. So I became familiar with both of you guys around that time. And then there used to be this store here called I want to say it was either Hot Pop or Non Pop, one of those two.
Mm.
It's no longer here. It went out of business, but that's where I bought the
The
Headspace
Headspace.
figure.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
yeah, and I got that. And then randomly, I used to do shows in Oshkosh, and there's this rapper that used to be on these shows, and he used to be insane. Always end up taking his shirt off during his show, and he actually has a piece of yours tattooed on his chest.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yep.
Oh wow, wow. I am very flattered. Yeah, like that is one of the things that I'm always just touched by is like some people will like send me like pics of the tattoos that they've gotten inspired by my paintings, and it's always just kind of like wow, like I'm absolutely flattered that the work that I created has connected with you so deeply that you want to have it immortalized on your work on your body. And um you know if anyone out there does have any of my work tattooed on them, please do not hesitate to send me pictures of it. I would love to be able to share it on my social media because I kind of want to encourage more of it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. 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 I mean,
but
I mean, so how does that? Because you said most of your travels uh, are from California, New York, Florida. Like that's your average. Like usually it's those places.
kind of, I mean, Florida less so. I
Yeah.
used to go out to Florida for Art Basel, which is a major art event in Miami. Um, but the and even nowadays, like obviously, like I haven't been to New York in the past couple of years, but like I actually find myself kind of more in Asia than anywhere else. But a friend of mine, you know, my friend Jesse, he would used to say, there are millions of fans of yours out there. They just don't realize it. And the way you help them realize is by going out there and letting people experience your work.
Mm,
And I'm always open to the idea of like participating in like group shows and hope in in obviously like of course there's a certain limit to all of that, just simply because of the fact that like I need to make sure that the gallery that I'm working with is able to pay me afterwards. It's
yeah, yeah.
unfortunately it's not uncommon for our galleries to fold suddenly. um I've heard many stories of relatively big galleries just closing their doors and running and not paying artists.
Mm,
And it's yeah, like that's just not a good thing. So I don't feel comfortable just working with anybody, but I would love opportunities to be able to travel out, meet people, show my work, and hopefully turn people on to what I do.
yeah.
Like because it's one thing for the internet to do it over the internet, but it's another thing. Like I stand firmly with by the belief that art should be experienced in person.
Mhm.
So this kind of like seeing music and should be experienced live,
Oh yeah.
in person.
Yep.
Like to be able to hear, like to be in to be in that atmosphere and to like see it and feel it in person. Like, what you're listening to, what you're seeing on your phone, and what you're listening to on your earbuds is a pale comparison to what its potential is, its full potential is.
Oh yeah. And if you do ever make it out to Milwaukee, I will show you some good food spots out here.
I would love that. I would love that. Yeah, like it's yeah, I again, I yeah, let's it's a deal. If you make it out to California, I'll take you out to eat, and vice versa.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely think we got a lot of talking in.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
let's
It was
say
fun.
yeah, it was definitely. Let me do this little outro, and then
Okay.
I'll let you go about your night.
So please do
So yeah,
your
this
thing.
this was Pick Apart the Passion podcast with the amazing artist Luke Chueh that you're seeing over here. And you need to make sure that you pick apart yourself to get to your passion. And like my other host that is unable to be with us tonight, like his father always says, is it good to be right or to be kind? And we're gonna leave you with that.
Kind.
And that's what he says. Yes, kind. So yes, thank you again, Luke Chueh, for being with us.
Thank you, Denku. This was a lot of fun, and I'm honored to be a part of your podcast, and I look forward to sharing the stream when it comes out.
Oh yeah, definitely, and I'll definitely keep you posted and in touch with that. And you have a good rest of your night, sir.
You too.
Pick apart the passion. Pick apart the passion. Pick the passion. Pick passion. Pick apart the passion. Pick apart the passion. 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 Passion.